They then I run from that. So the report since you've gone getting family. So it makes a difference. And so what? Then Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. So let's see.
Could please take a seat if you can, please? Hi, everyone. If you could all please take your seats, Father Peter would like to give a blessing. Yeah, it's not correct. You stand for the blessing, everyone.
You are holy, and to you we give the glory. Amen.
Okay, everybody, take your seats. Okay, we all know that we have a very important two important memorials today. So maybe can we just give them one more maybe round of applause or welcome? With that, I'm going to give the microphone to Jimmy. Yeah. I'm sorry. Okay. We have one more really stewardship chair. You deserve it. Stewardship chair. You deserve it. He's working hard and free in your computer system. Bring such um and, and this is everyone. I'm going to let him explain it. So this is Jonathan.
Thank you, Mary. For those of you who submitted their stewardship 2026 stewardship cards on or before December 31st, you were entered into a raffle. This raffle right here, Gal.
Hey, you guys, give us just like 2 minutes of attention, okay? Jonathan's worked hard on this, and you could win 2 nights at the Ritz Carlton.
Go ahead and do the shuffle. All right, go ahead and stand up and get them away. The winner is Thomas Kojas. Is Thomas here? Congratulations, Thomas. You're here. I am your contact person for that prize.
Seated, and then we're going to turn it over to Jimmy to speak. Kindly have a seat. We're about to start. We have a short program honoring Eleni Christodoulelis, our mom, Yaya. We are going to be playing the video, the slideshow presentation as we speak. So I hope we capture a lot of her smiles and the love through the pictures you see. So my brother's going to go first, and then we're going to have a couple of family members. Thank you all for being here.
Welcome, everyone. Father Peter, Presbytera Ada, Presbytera Georgia. Celebrate my mom's legacy and mom's cast. Not leaving today, but we're here to honor her memory. We have some people that could make it here today. Fortunately, we have the service being live streamed. So people in California, Texas, Virginia, Boston, think that because it's a London, happens, we can either able to watch service earlier in this celebration over here. In fact, Mom was, as you all remember, she was a parishioner of St. Anthony here in the Pasadena. And coincidentally enough, she was also her parish in Italy was St. Anthony. She's buried in St. Anthony Monastery. Uh, In fact, yesterday, actually earlier today, they held 200 Muslim for one in Athens, like her neighbor, and in Mytilene with her cousins and our wonderful neighbors that look after her day in and day out. The 729 is the day that the archangel took her out of our arms and brought her to God's arms. And I will tell you, when Jimmy speaks, he'll tell you, recall the story when we took Mom to the monastery, the archangels, less than about a month ago. Mom, as we all know, is very spiritual. Her life is centered around Christ and the family. She loved being a parent. And we, our children, were her greatest accomplishments. We're lucky enough to have our children here today, except one. Nick and Amy are here with their children. Mike and Ami with their children. Eleni and Matt in Columbus. So they're very, very happy not to be under -5 degree weather here today. It's been a blessing to have Yaya, to have had the opportunity to visit her right before Christmas. So we plan to bring her from the beginning to Athens for the summer house, and then I think she wanted to pass away in the place that she grew up and she spent many, many summers, and from the time she was a girl. That is the place the little beach house that she's had, and that's where she ended up having the last few breaths. Mom's Amy, we call the stories about her parents, escaped Asia Minor, her time in Sudan, her time in Boston, her time in Pasadena. We call great stories about the meeting she had with the Vietnamese over here, and how everybody referred to as Kitty Eleni. For that, we're really, really blessed for all of you, giving us so much love and support over the years. She was also, as you very well know, making a community baker. Now, the day would go by a little bit when she lived in Pasadena that she didn't call Jimmy Ryan to bring up butter, eggs, and flowers, and she could make some pastries or some crema caramel for Dr. So-and-so, or somebody's birthday or somebody's anniversary. I recall being in Boston years ago. I think the last Easter they celebrated with that, she literally made 50 dozen of eggs. Okay, so everybody would have an Easter egg to celebrate Easter. What was really amazing was that she could finish by 2:30 in the afternoon and then go to work every night. She had incredible energy, incredible stamina. She was very, very positive. She was our life coach, our compass, our pilot, good force of nature. She cheered us in our successes and was there to help us, overcome challenges like we all go through different phases of our lives. She taught us resiliency, how to excel in life. She never explained how to not worry about anyone. whenever she met new people, they always became her friends. And a lot of people over the years, they would call upon her personally or by phone to get her advice to overcome whatever challenges they faced as well. She looked forward to the phone calls from Enrique to Yota to everybody that used to call her, to Elizabeth, to Eleni Christodoulelis, I think, that would call on her and cheer her up and they would watch these big programs of TV. So their connection to the outside world. But a day goes by, Jimmy and I don't miss it, don't think about it. There's so many things. Looking back, we realize our successes and the success for much everyone in here was based on the hard work of your parents and grandparents in making this country as immigrants that we owe so much to them.
Nick, the
Our
live streams, they're not.
Yeah, I'm aware of it.
Okay.
Very privileged.
Okay.
went through, we grew up in Italy, some may not know that. In back in 1965, the Civil War, so basically we had to leave. Suddenly, luckily, our uncle was well established in Boston, so we immigrated to Boston. We spent over 20 years over there, and we're working on the Pasadena. That's so many wonderful friends and families. So as you look back, said thank you to, we said thank you to our parents, they put us again and fought so hard for our successes. And thank you for being here this morning and see most of you here. Means so much to us. Now, as I said, cousins, nephews, nieces that are watching. You have President of Georgia, my cousin Janita came over with family. We're so blessed. If I miss someone, please forgive me. We have Anastasia Food, other from Paris, to be here today. I want to say thank you to the Philippians ladies that set this up. Thank you to Nine and her family for the beautiful flowers. To Cassie and the catering team from Foothill, thank you very, very much. And to, I think, Nick that set this whole thing up so we can all get a little glimpse of my lives of my parents' lives and how much we enjoyed seeing these yesterday at the restaurant. So thank you, and I don't know what's coming next, Jimmy, but thank you for being here and much appreciated. Thank you. Thanks.
I'm sorry, next. So next you have is Eleni, and she has a couple comments, and including Leftheri couldn't make it, just had his first
Luckily,
child.
our uncle was well established in Boston.
I'm sure he'd rather be here with this balmy
We
weather.
spent over 20 years over there, and we're working on the Pasadena.
Thank you
That's
so
what we
much.
do, wonderful friends and
I'm
families.
so blessed to
So
be
as
up
you look
here.
back,
I
say
see
thank
so
you
many
to-
wonderful
say
familiar
thank you to our
faces.
parents.
I
They put us
grew up
together
in this
and fought so
parish.
hard for our
It's an incredible
successes.
place to grow up
And
and have
Thank you for being here this morning
important faith and
and see
community
most
roots
of
that guide us
see
going
most of you
forward.
here. Means so much
It's
to
also
us.
wonderful to
Now,
see so many
as
new
I said,
faces. I think the
cousins,
parish is
nephews,
growing and
nieces that
vibrant.
are watching.
It's been such a blessing to be here this
We
morning.
have
So for those of you who don't know
Georgia,
me, I am
Janita came over with
other
family.
Eleni
We're so
Christodoulelis.
blessed.
And
I
I'm
miss
blessed to
someone,
be my Yaga's
Please
namesake.
forgive me. We have Anastasia
I'm the oldest of her
other from
granddaughters.
Paris.
You'll hear from my cousins in a little
Be
bit
here
as
today.
well.
I want to say
It did
thank
hit
you
me a
to
few
the
days ago
Philippians ladies
that for the first
that
time in
set
my
this
life,
up.
I'm
Thank
the
you
only
to Nine and her
Eleni
family for the
Christodoulelis
beautiful
in the world.
flowers.
And what
To
incredible.
Cassie and the catering team from Foothill, thank you
And
very,
we've
very
heard a little
much.
bit from my dad,
And to, I
we'll hear
think,
more from the rest of my
Nick
family
that
about
set
my
this whole
Yaga's
thing up so we can
life
all
and
get a little
legacy.
glimpse of my life.
Today I want to talk and
my
focus on the
parents'
core of
lives
what made
and how
our
much we
relationship
enjoyed
so special.
seeing these yesterday at the restaurant.
I've
So
always
thank
loved
you, and I
to
don't know
learn.
what's coming next, Jimmy.
And
But
that
thank you
is
for
in
being
large
here
part
and
because of my Yaya.
much appreciated.
Because
Thank
she
you.
was my first teacher.
I'm sorry, next. So next you have is Eleni,
And she was fortunate.
and she has a couple comments, and including Leftheri couldn't make it, just had his first
Luckily,
child.
our uncle was well established in Boston.
I'm sure he'd rather be here with
Thank
this.
you
And
very,
we've
very
heard a little bit
much.
from my dad,
And to,
when
I
she
think,
put on greeting the rest of my
Nick
family
that
about
set
10
this whole
years
thing
old.
up so we can
Life
all
and
get a little
legacy.
glimpse of my life.
Today I want to talk and
my
focus on the
parents'
core of
lives
what made
and how much
our
we enjoyed
relationship special.
seeing these yesterday at the restaurant.
I've
So
always
thank
loved
you, and
her
I
as
don't know
my
what's
first
coming next,
teacher.
Jimmy.
And
But
that
thank
our
you for
days
being
were
here
not
and
filled with adults and toys.
much appreciated.
But
Thank
she was
you.
my first
Thank
teacher. Our
you.
days of learning.
Sure. So next we have is Eleni,
And she was
and
fortunate.
she has a couple comments, and including the fact he couldn't make it, just had his first child. I'm sure he'd rather be here with this.
Sofa was my desk, and that was definitely the teacher.
Thank you very
We heard
much.
from my dad,
And to, I think,
reading the rest of my
maybe
family
let's
about
set
time.
this starting up so we can all get a glimpse of my collection.
Today I want to talk
My parents'
for
lives,
what made
and how much we enjoyed
special.
seeing these yesterday at the restaurant.
I've
So
always
thank you, and that's what makes coming next year.
and that
Thanks
our
for being
days were
here,
not
and that's
filled with adults and toys.
much appreciated.
And she
Thank
was
you.
my first teacher. Our days of learning.
Sure. So next we have is Eleni,
And she was fortunate.
and she has a couple comments, and including the fact he couldn't make it, just had his first
Actually,
child.
our uncle established
I'm sure he'd rather be here with this.
Sofa was my desk, and that was definitely the teacher.
Thank you very much.
From my dad,
And to, I think,
reading the rest of my
maybe
family
let's
about
set this
time.
starting up so we can all get a glimpse of my collection.
Today I want to talk
My parents'
for
lives,
what made
and how much we enjoyed
special.
seeing these yesterday at the restaurant.
I've
So
always
thank you, and that's what makes coming next year.
and that
Thanks
our
for being
days
here,
were
and that's
filled with adults and toys.
much appreciated.
And she was my first teacher. Our days of learning.
Sure. So next we have is Eleni,
And she was
and
fortunate.
she has a couple comments, and including the fact he couldn't make it, just had his first
Actually,
child.
our uncle established
I'm sure he'd rather be here with this.
Sofa was my desk, and that was definitely the teacher.
Thank you very much.
From my dad,
And to, I think,
reading the rest of my
maybe
family
let's
about
set this
time.
starting up so we can all get a glimpse of my collection.
Today I want to talk
My parents'
for what
lives,
made
and how much we enjoyed
special.
seeing these yesterday at the restaurant.
I've
So
always
thank you, and that's what makes coming next year.
and that
Thanks
our
for being
days
here,
were
and that's
filled with adults and toys.
much appreciated.
And she was my first teacher. Our days of learning.
Sure. So next we have is Eleni,
And she was
and
fortunate.
she has a couple comments, and including the fact he couldn't make it, just had his first
Actually,
child.
our uncle established
I'm sure he'd rather be here with this.
Sofa was my desk, and that was definitely the teacher.
Thank you very much.
From my dad,
And to,
reading the rest of my
maybe
family
let's set
about
this
time.
starting up so we can all get a glimpse of my collection.
Today I want to talk
My parents'
for
lives,
what made
and how much we enjoyed seeing these yesterday at the restaurant.
I've
So
always
thank you, and that's what makes coming next year.
and that
Thanks
our
for being
days
here,
were
and that's
filled with adults and toys.
much appreciated.
And she was my first teacher. Our days of learning.
Sure. So next we have is Eleni,
And she was
and she has a couple comments, and including the fact he couldn't make it, just had his first child. I'm sure he'd rather be here with this.
was my desk, and that was definitely the teacher.
Thank you very much.
From my dad, reading the rest of my
Maybe
family
let's set
about
this
time.
starting up so we can all get a glimpse of my collection.
Today I want to talk
My parents' lives, and how much we enjoyed seeing these yesterday at the restaurant. So thank you, and that's what makes coming next year. Thanks for being here, and that's much appreciated.
She was my first teacher. Our days of learning.
Sure. So next we have is Eleni,
And she was
and she has a couple comments, and including the fact he couldn't make it, just had his first child. I'm sure he'd rather be here with this.
was my desk, and that was definitely the teacher. From my dad, reading the rest of my
Maybe
family
let's set
about
this
time.
starting up so we can all get a glimpse of my collection.
Today I want to talk
My parents' lives, and how much we enjoyed seeing these yesterday at the restaurant. So thank you, and that's what makes coming next year. Thanks for being here, and that's much appreciated.
She was my first teacher. Our days of learning.
Sure. So next we have is Eleni,
And she was
and she has a couple comments, and including the fact he couldn't make it, just had his first child. I'm sure he'd rather be here with this.
was my desk, and that was definitely the teacher. From my dad, reading the rest of my family
Maybe let's set
about
this
time.
starting up so we can all get a glimpse of my collection.
Today I want to talk
My parents' lives, and how much we enjoyed seeing these yesterday at the restaurant. So thank you, and that's what makes coming next year. Thanks for being here, and that's much appreciated.
She was my first teacher. Our days of learning.
Sure. So next we have is Eleni,
And she was
and she has a couple comments, and including the fact he couldn't make it, just had his first child. She has a couple comments. The fitting for singing satisfactorily sure whether the
Close to my yaya's Korea, she had a house our great grandfather built on the beach, primarily used for hunting at that time. We have some of our favorite childhood memories here in general, but especially with her, where she was truly in her element. It was a family tradition to play the board game Sorry all together. And the last summer we spent there, Sophia got to come and visit us for about a week, and finishing off each long day of, swimming at the beach, coming back, having a long lunch with her, going back, and of course she'd be, saying hers every time we come back up to the house. After our long dinners, we would sit around the table and we'd play a game of Sorry all together. And it's not one that you really need much conversing in, but it was the funniest thing to watch her play, and it would truly break her heart when she'd have to take a piece off the board and say, sorry, and move one of our pieces back to the start. This was truly the only time she ever took any joy in seeing any of us go down, and her laugh while doing this was truly the best thing to hear. We could go on and on about all these stories, the ones that we've told, the ones that you heard before. All this to say is we got to see our Yaya in a very different light than the rest of our family. We got to first know her through an absence of words. Everything she taught us was not only through words, but through a lot of her actions. She was never unkind, she was never impatient, and she was always teaching us something. We miss her so, so very much. And we hope that one day we can be even half as amazing as she was to us. So, thank you very much.
Well, beautiful words. Thank you all for being here. She was truly a special person. You've heard so many great things, wonderful things, endearing from the heart. And a lot of it was really spiritual in nature. Yaya was truly lived a saintly life. Thank you to Strati, Nick, Michael, and Cecilia Malia Sophia for sharing beautiful memories and for opening your hearts
And about your sweet Yaya. Eleni Christodoulelis was an exceptional soul who personified the best of the greatest generation, eternally devoted to her family and faith. A family is overwhelmed by the amount of outpouring of love, heartfelt emotions, and so many beautiful tributes. Writing her obituary felt surreal because she was so enthusiastic, even to the last days of her life. She was such a big part of my life, and it's so very hard to let go. Stand here, but I stand here to honor her as our family has done. But how do you encapsulate such an extraordinary human being's life? I am sure she's looking down at us with her wonderfully enduring smile, and I can hear the echo of her voice whispering softly, as she often did, "To mono brahma, που αξίζει στη ζωή είναι αγάπη." The only thing that matters or is worthy in life is love. Χωρίς αγάπη δεν έχεις τίποτα. Without love, you have nothing. And she lived that each and every single day. She loved us, loved her grandchildren, loved all of you that met her. They were lucky enough to meet her. And she did touch a lot of lives. She made a difference. Didn't matter your background, didn't matter where you came from, whatever. She always welcomed you with that beautiful big smile. As you heard, and I'm jumping around because a lot of kids here took a lot of my notes. As you heard, she was an exceptional student. And when she was in high school, I believe, the headmaster was a wonderful man, friend of the family. They had to take her out of school because of the Civil War in Greece after World War II. And the headmaster, this is a story right from my mom, the headmaster lamented that taking her and stopping her education in school wasn't just an immoral, a wrong decision, it was criminal. That's how much of a great student she is. And you can see that personified in everything she did. She excelled in writing. Friends and family would anxiously await. I remember that my parents left Sudan, as you heard, and we went to Boston. And that was beautiful. That was great. Start over and have a wonderful life in Boston. And remember that my parents lived a beautiful life. They never disagreed, never argued, never yelled at each other. And I got to tell you a story. Apparently, I didn't think it was very normal growing up that they didn't yell or scream or disagree. How does that happen, right? So one Sunday afternoon, when it had to be a Sunday because my dad works 6 days a week. So one Sunday afternoon, must have left a friend's house where they were bickering and yelling and screaming. I got home, saw my dad on the couch, whistling. Saw my mom look at me bewildered, and he said, "I said, like your mom, you guys, I don't know." I said, "Yes, I want you to yell." I said, "What do you mean, son?" I said, "Well, you never yell or scream or talk down to your mom. You said never do anything for us. You're always so saying to each other." So he looked at me and he said, "Well," and he yelled out, "What are you going to do, son? I need you to wake up. Like I'm looking at you. So that close. Being a rebellious teenager must have been 14 years old. Yeah, lucky. I love you. Okay, son, are you happy? Then church came to our house. What do I mean by that? Well, I remember vividly, it was was it Holy Week? Yeah. Holy Thursday. Do you know Holy Thursday is 12 Gospels, right? So I said, "Mom, I don't feel so good. I think I'm going to have to skip church." And she looked at me and said it again. She wasn't find any of that. So she said, "Don't worry, son. Don't worry." And she proceeded that night. We proceeded that night, and I remember this vividly. We did the entire service standing in front of the icons, my brother and I taking turns reading all 12 Gospels. And believe me, that was the last time we missed Holy Week. As you heard, we were also amazed by her wonderful recall organization, always pointing to her head saying, Ecosystema. I have a system. I have a process. I have a computer, in other words. Maybe she had the first computer. And I want to recall this story. Hopefully, I don't offend anyone in this room. When ladies asked for her recipes, she would happily share them. But when they made the desserts, they didn't quite get the same results. They discreetly afterwards asked, Jimmy, ask your mom, did she give the correct recipe? All of the recipe? I said, okay, I'll ask my mom. So I went, Mom, did you give the right recipe? And she was saying, yes, of course, Jimmy. And this is the recipe. I gave the recipe, but an ecosystem, it's a process of doing things. It wasn't just the recipe. And she would make the best flans and desserts, as I know a lot of you had, sir, the Gularakian desserts. So the system worked many, many years. Almost lived to be 98. We thought she'd be 100, 105. We had a couple of cousins that were marveled. We were marveled that lived to be such a long, beautiful life. My brother and I, our family, present, extended, past, and future, have been blessed to have such a unique soul in our lives. Having her as our mother, we hit the lottery. We are blessed beyond any earthly possessions. You can never put a price tag on the time we spent together, the love we shared, the honor of calling her mother, and the sacrifices she and my dad made for us. We are truly blessed. I want to conclude by giving you one example of faith. I think it was beautiful talking about her faith. On Mytilene, we have a very famous monastery. It's the Taxiarch, and I brought, once I knew, when she passed away, I left. I buried her in Greece. And I brought the Taxiarch. There's about 150 or so of these little cards. So please take one. So my brother and I, when we visited her mom right before Christmas, she was good. We were going to leave her there, maybe take her out. We left her there, but she wanted to go to Taxiarch. So we took her to Taxiarch, and this is 100% honest truth. So we go there. She's very emotional because she prayed her most of her adult life to Taxiarch. And the monastery on the island of Mytilene is very famous for having a lot of miracles, and just not the last 5-10 years, for hundreds of years. So it was very emotional, and after we went through, and we were thinking maybe it's her last time, and it actually turned out to be her last time. We sat at the adjacent cafe and ordered her favorite lugumadas, which is, the little churro balls, right? And she was sitting there. When she was sitting to eat, she was so focused. And she was sitting, and we were sitting there quietly. And all of a sudden, she said, very, very quietly, she said, Ida Taheria to Taxiari. I saw the hands of Taxiari. Ida Megala Kevaria. They were large and heavy. I never used the word varia, very heavy. So I said, "Oh, okay, Mom. When did you see this dream?" My mom stopped eating, staring intensely into my eyes. I said, "Mom, I believe you." said also that she's seen his hands again. 3 days later, she had a stroke. She was in deep coma for an immobile. My brother and I came to America, left her. I had to fly back. He was stuck in New York. So she was in a deep unconscious coma. And the doctors were marveled that she didn't actually pass away the first night. She had a very large hemorrhage in her head that caused a stroke. And on Christmas Day, I kept whispering, by the way. Anyone that called, anyone that texted, anyone that's looking at live stream, I whispered their names. I whispered if you called or texted. I don't know. I've heard that you can hear. Even if you're in a coma, some receptors still work. So I whispered in her ear, everyone that called or texted and sent their love. And I told her that this is Christmas Day. And I said, Mom, I'm going to Taxiarch. I'm going to pray for you. She was in a coma, unconscious, and obviously didn't respond, wasn't moving. And the next day, the 26th, I went back to the hospital, visited her, the caregivers there, the nurses there, and I went to Taxiarch, this monastery. And I hope you visit me, Eleni, and go to the monastery. And I said, I'm going to go to Taxiarch. And I did. And sorry, Mom. I'll wrap it up. So I went, I prayed, I lit large candles, I came back, and I went to the hospital, and the caregiver, the nurse was there. And the caregiver, Verico, was a little shook up a little bit. I said, how's Mom? She says, good. So I went over to her, and she quietly said to me, she took her right hand and crossed her fingers. And she did her cross. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. The caregiver witnessed it. And the nurse cried out saying, what was that? Di enough though. She never moved again. And she passed away a few days later. All I have to tell you though, it's so beautiful to be a believer. She certainly was. Remember this, my friends, every time you show kindness to someone, act a little nicer, show respect, restraint, or humility, her spirit lives on. So when we say Zui Sesas, her memory will truly be eternal, and a warm, beautiful love will live within each of us, each of you. And maybe, just maybe, the world will be a little better place. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to everyone who spoke. We can't do justice to our life. We'll continue this next week. Okay, so thank you again. Thank you so much.